Tej, let's finish off here talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, which they're they're fantastic. It's such a fantastic from the sense that they're so fun to watch because they're both unbeatable, but so beatable. Like just like in every single game where you're only going to win by 3 points. And obviously last week they lose to, or they beat the Raiders 19-17. And like on Monday mornings, my nephew would be like, oh, like, I mean, he's 4 years old. He's like, oh, like what was the score in this game, that game, and the other game? And then he's like, oh, what was the score in the Chargers Chiefs game? And I say 19-17. He's like, no, like I mean the Chiefs game against the Chargers, not the Chiefs games against the Raiders. I'm like, oh man, you reminded me. Literally same exact situation. You've won now 10 games by one score. And you look at one score games and that's not the most fair to say, hey, that is just a toss up, but they are 12-1. They clinched the AFC West for the 9th straight season. With all likelihood, the AFC playoffs are going to go through the Kansas City Chiefs with home field advantage. What are you thinking about that game for the Chiefs?
I mean, it was, yeah, that's a hilarious story about your nephew, because like it did seem like deja vu, with the Chiefs again in this game, where they just seem to play the same game every week, and come out victorious most of the time. But like really just like my main takeaway about the Chiefs in this game, and we really saw this on the last drive of the game, is just like how good they can be when they have to convert. Because they are still first in EPA per play, first in success rate on late downs. They're really good both dropping back to pass and rushing in these situations. Like they've really figured out how to do both phases of their offense well. And so it's like when Mahomes gets the ball in a got to have it situation, there's no other quarterback I have more trust in to actually convert there. Even though like these offensive tackles are playing very poorly, he doesn't really have a chemistry with his top two receiving options and Hopkins and Xavier Worthy yet. Like, but they just figure it out. Like Worthy is just able to come back to the ball on that amazing play by Mahomes at the end of the game to convert, and keep the chains moving. Like that's just kind of what the Chiefs offense does at this point.
I mean, this is a Mahomes side quest here where he's just doing things that it's so wild. And I like that you mentioned just their late down success overall, because we can't look at the Kansas City offense and say like, I mean, there are problems with it, or there are parts of it that we would probably like to look a little bit different, but we can't say they don't do anything well. So they can run the ball on the inside. They have a strong interior offensive line, and the late down success rate, like that is rail for them. It takes, I mean, you tell me, like it's supposed to be volatile, right? Third downs, we think about,
Yeah.
less predictive from kind of year over year for third downs. But Mahomes magic, like it seems like that's sustainable. Do you think that they're going to be able to continue that? Because it feels like they will. Because again, that is becoming a Mahomes based thing, right? Where even whatever you think about the offense, and you can even say, hey, the play calling overall this season just maybe hasn't been the best. But when it comes down to it, Mahomes is going to find a way to make it happen. And it feels like that is actually like not a volatile thing. It feels like Patrick Mahomes being awesome at football is a sustainable thing.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's like Mahomes will find a way. Andy Reid will have, play calls he feels more confident about in those situations, and like you can just really just see that play out in some of these end of game scenarios where they're just able to continually convert, especially on late downs, as we've talked about. And like I talked about this a bit, on the Sumer Daily with Sam last night, but like when it comes to the 2024 Chiefs, like I don't feel comfortable putting them in the same bucket as like the 2022 Vikings or 2020 Steelers, where it's like, okay, it's this team that's fundamentally not that good, but they're like winning a lot of one score games. Like I think because they're the Chiefs and they're the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, they have Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, they have Travis Kelce. Like I still just feel confident in them, going into the postseason, even though it just hasn't looked pretty from time to time, just because like they're that good of a team at just flipping the switch, and they can just do that so often. And we saw them do it last year, and it wouldn't surprise anyone if they did it again this year.
I mean, you get a new left tackle. Like you just put DJ Humphries in there, where Chargers were able to generate a bunch of pressure. And I do think the Chargers defense did a good job for most of this game, where you're finding different ways to, like even if they have a high rushing success rate, you're able to kind of create enough splash plays that are going to be positive for the defense overall. You have situations where you're just matching routes in the right way. You're playing confidently with Derwin James over Travis Kelce and just finding different ways to deal with that offense. So I think really frustrating for a Chargers team where, look, you have to play a perfect game against the Chiefs. You cannot give them opportunities. You can't have situations where you're missing a open receiver down the field. You can't, to me at least, you can't have those two punts where you're in Chiefs territory. So, when I wrote about it in my column, I was like, what team can do the lion's share of these things? the Lions can do. They really, really can, I think. So that's part of what makes me hopeful for a Lions Chiefs matchup. Like I just want to be able to see that because I was at certain points, you start it's the cycle with the Chiefs, Tage. You're on them with them for 10 weeks. They have their ups and downs. You start looking elsewhere and then you're back on the Chiefs. Like fool me once, fool me 75 times. But again, I think it is really important to again look at it. Like the Chiefs do have fundamental aspects of their team that are really good. Like that late game stuff, I think that's going to be sustainable. Again, the just interior runs is going to be something that they're going to be able to push most teams around with. I do think though, when you look just like longer term, you need to have teams that are going to be happy to take those fourth downs to be super super aggressive because against the Chiefs defense, look, the Chiefs want to play man coverage against you as much as they can. That is what Spags wants to do. They can do that against teams that maybe don't have the best receiving talent, but you see in this game against the Chargers were able to get receivers open constantly. So I do think a team that's able to take advantage of that, maybe you are able to just find situations like, of course, the Bills beat the Chiefs and they were able to kind of have success to their receivers on the outside, finding them in different ways. So I love it. Like I love this Kansas City Chiefs season because they're going to be the one seed. They should be like you should assume that they're going to be in the Super Bowl. But at the same time, it feels like they could lose, in their second round game, or they could just kind of drop a game at any point if some team really gets on them.
Yeah, and there's a scenario now where, like the it's not like a for sure thing that the Bills even get the 2 seed. Just if like the Steelers keep winning some of the games, that they're winning. I know we talked about like them having a tough schedule down the stretch, but I was looking at Seth Walder's AFC seeding forecast from FPI earlier today. The Bills have a 17% chance to get the 1 seed, 55% chance to get the 2 seed, and 25% chance to get the 3 seed. So if the Steelers end up getting the 2 seed, which they have a 20% chance of, would need a win over the Eagles or the Ravens, like one of these games here that's pretty tough for them, or even the Chiefs, in these next stretch that they have, like you would have a situation where Buffalo might be playing like either Baltimore or Los Angeles in the wild card round, and then going to Pittsburgh to play that game before end up the winner goes to Kansas City. And so like the Chiefs might end up having this pretty good path here where they could play like the Steelers in the AFC Championship game, which they would be a decent favorite in, or the Bills coming off back-to-back road games in the AFC Championship game as well.
I mean, what a season for the Chiefs. It's just going to be so fun to see where things kind of go. And like I mentioned in the NFC, like I just love when the top seeds have to go through like the top teams. Obviously, like you don't get to control that if you're the top team. Like I don't think, oh, the Super Bowl means less if you didn't beat every single team kind of along the way. Like you win the games that are on the schedule overall. So I hope we just get a bunch of good games with the Chiefs, with the Ravens, with the Bills at different times through the rest of the season. Let's get on out of here. You can follow Tej at Tej FB Analytics. I am at Syed Schemes. Thanks as always to super producer Matt Stopsky, who is pumping out articles. He's got his Bears mock draft, putting up the Giants mock draft later. He's going to do the Pro Bowl voting here. Make sure you're able to check all of that out on sumosports.com. Thank you, of course, for spending a bit of your day with us. We'll be back on Thursday previewing some huge games for week 16. We have Lions, Bills, we have Steelers, Eagles. That's going to be a lot of fun. We will see you then.